All right, so let's switch to part 2 now. That was just sort of a lot of information. Let's see what this might look like if it was in a specification wizard form. So a lot of our software applications have this wizard that sort of guide us through how we might set up and configure the software for whatever we're trying to process. And so this is just a sort of slight mock-up of what it might look like if we were incorporating all of those requirements in a specification wizard. I'm imagining that this is the screen on a specification wizard. This would be what a client is looking at. And I should say too, the impetus for thinking about this is I keep hearing from translation management systems and sort of from, I guess, technologists within our industry that they'd like to get to a point where clients can simply upload a document and then it will just process, right? It's very automated. There's no project manager sort of handling things. It's just passing through the process. So if you want to achieve that, I think it's very achievable. I think it's a great idea too. And it's a matter of designing your software applications to be able to do that so that the client understands exactly what it is that they're purchasing. So here I'm imagining that a client has previously registered in some sort of a portal. We know who they are, so the system is inserting their name. It's saying, thank you for creating an account in our portal, so-and-so. Welcome to the Specification Wizard. Let's get started. Would you like to report on your requirements on your project, on whatever requests for services that you have, by initiative or by document, right? Giving somebody choices. Hey, how do you want to interact with this system? And let's imagine that the person selected the by document choice. So they upload a document, and here's where a lot of automation could be brought in. Because if, as an LSC, you have a great number of corpora, a lot of this analysis of the source content could be automated. If you have enough corpora within the system where you've got your general purpose corpora, there's 2 types of corpora. There's special language corpora or general language corpora. General language corpora is just a collection of everyday speech. So from a general language corpora, when analyzing the source content, in this case, a Bitcoin guide, against the general language corpora, the system itself should be able to determine what's the language and dialect of this. It should be able to tell the difference between American English and Indian English simply by the way that the language is being spelled, those sorts of things. And then based on comparing the text type conventions against special language corpora, the subject matter specializations should be able to be determined equally as well. So this would be a lot of building that linguists would do, right? Building together these corpora, incorporating them into a system, and making it so that the system can analyze the source content against the corpora to be able to determine, okay, what are we working with here? So then on the next page, the system would have its little gears turning or whatever, and then it would say, great, thank you for uploading your documents. AI-powered corpora analysis has produced the following report about your document. The language is English for the United States. There's subject matter specializations, financials, cryptocurrency, information technology. Here's the authors. We can kind of tell from the text type conventions that this is instructional text. We can tell that it's been written in plain language, that it's got a technical register. These are registers from the typology of language registers by ISO. And the purpose is didactic. And then it's asking, is that correct? Yes, no. If it's no, a person could click no and make their minor adjustments. If it's yes, they would move on through the specification wizard. All right, so now they've gotten through that first piece. It's happened automatically. That's been just a matter of, a few seconds that all of those things have been defined, and they've been defined automatically, which reduces the chances of a human being making a mistake when defining those parameters. So then we would have 2 more buttons. Do you want to have language work on this document that you've uploaded? Do you want to have design work, or both? And the person could click this, or they could click both language and design work. Then when they hover over these buttons as well, it would give some sort of a definition. So all as they're passing through the system, there would be guidance. Hey, language work is work that's done on the textual aspects. I might not use this exact definition when having clients interface with this, but I think you kind of get the point, right? I would make it much more user-friendly. Okay, so let's say they've chosen both. And now we get to the point where they're going to be telling us what languages, essentially, and what audience they want this translated for. So let's imagine that next they're presented with a sort of a map, where this would be one configuration and how they might select the audience of the text. where let's say they hover over each portion of the map, depending on how the regions are subdivided within the map, some sort of a pop-up comes up that talks about the name of the region, the continent, or the country, the languages spoken, the number of speakers of each language. It could also give a digitalization report. Is this language digitalized? Does software function in this language? All sorts of additional commentary could be given too. Are there translation training locations in this region? If there's not, that would be justification for a little bit higher price, right? Because you're going to have to do some more training. If there's not training programs there, then you might have to train the individuals in that environment. So all of these sort of information that you could give to a client as they're hovering over your map and selecting the regions they want to gear the content toward, they're also learning about, hey, these are the things that affect translation pricing and turnaround time. Okay, and so let's say they've chosen their region of the map, and so now we can see, great, you would like your document translated into these languages. Okay, so please tell us a little bit more about your audience. And you'll recall that a little bit earlier we looked at that HubSpot buyer persona. There's a whole series of multiple choice questions that could be asked in order to help determine in a very automated and standardized way, what are the demographics of this audience? So suddenly we're getting, okay, this is the educational experience that the person has. This is the work experience. Maybe requirements are collected in a dialog box of some kind. Then they're next being asked, all right, what's the grade of translation that you would like to purchase? Where they've got some sort of a model, some sort of a graphic that teaches them, hey, if you purchase a high grade of translation services, this is what you're getting. You're getting something that's highly readable, highly fluent, highly corresponds to the source text with no significant errors. So they're able to decide for themselves, this is the level of quality that I want based on an understanding of what they're getting for that quality. And I guess my question is, do we even offer the low grade? If you don't want to offer that service, don't put it in the specification wizard. Or maybe you do offer it because there's certain types of content that you decide, yeah, we can use a low grade for. eBay has a very nice model where they use machine translation that's post-edited at a very high level for all user-generated content. There's so much of it, they couldn't translate it. So they use machine translation. But maybe we just don't make that available to buyers. Or if we do make it available and they select it, but we have determined, hey, for that specific text type, for that specific genre, this grade doesn't work. All of a sudden an error pops up on screen. Uh-oh, we're not interested in producing that grade for this kind of content that you're requesting, so either you'll need to go to somebody else or you'll need to go back to the previous screen and select another grade of translation. Okay, great. So now we need to determine, hey, is your content even ready for translation? Please go through this checklist and confirm these things for us. 1, the content is final. It's ready to go. 2, inconsistent terminology use has been resolved within the content. They would put yes or no. All instances of ambiguous meaning have been reviewed and revised. All instances of improper paragraph breaks have been reviewed and revised, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You could put as many items as you want to within this checklist. And then if they select no to one or more of the items, you just say, oh, okay, great. We see that you need copy editing too. We see that you need terminology work too. Thanks for giving us this information. This helps us understand what services we need to provide on your content. Okay. By the way, do you have any previous translations that you'd like us to incorporate in this? And do you have previous translations that you can give us in translation memory format? Previous translations that you can give us in some other kind of format? Do we need to potentially do alignment on previous translation content? Or do you not have content? They can upload their previous translations, and even some sort of a corpus analysis could happen on the document that's uploaded to see the quality of that too, and if it can be applied. Then going on to, okay, you've told us what level of translation quality you want to have. Now tell us what kind of localization that you want to have if you're requesting that. Would you like a system that's lightly adapted? Would you like a system that's configurable? Would you like a system that's fully customized? I won't talk further about that. Again, looking at what are the service levels that you need. So I've already talked about service level 1. Maybe we can look over here at service level 3, where suddenly we're getting localization vendor management added in. Suddenly we're getting translation editing, proofreading added in. Notice that we've got conventional post-editing and translation Translation, editing, and proofreading, so sets of services that are being grouped together in a way that a client can't separate them out. So a client is not able to say, no, I don't want editing, I just want translation. I, as the service provider, am setting up my specification wizard to say, no, if you purchase translation, you also have to have editing, because it's a best practice according to standards of best practice to have both translation and editing by linguists with the skills necessary to produce that content. And then a person, they would either be able to select a service level, or maybe they want to just select a la carte services too. Next, we would have sort of guiding somebody through. Tell us about your turnaround times. Do you want something really, really quickly? So then we know we need to have more charges on it quickly, but not in a rush. Maybe you prefer that we just take a standard amount of time. Okay, understood. Now, are there folks on your team that are going to have approval? We need to know in advance if there's going to be a client approver involved. Otherwise, that can really disrupt things. If you deliver what you believe to be a fully finalized product to the client and suddenly a client reviewer comes in and wants to make a ton of changes. So we're going to define that in advance, and we're going to get the name and contact information of the person that is giving that approval right up front so that it's just clear that that's going to happen as we produce the work. Okay. And so now we're incorporating some reporting on what are the KPI, the key performance indicators that the client may want to achieve with their content. Notice here I'm not including on-time delivery or products being error-free. That's a basic expectation. We don't need to include that here. Key performance indicators should be things like increased engagement with our website. We're looking for a reduced number of customer support requests, increased sales in targeted markets. And these are just ways that we're, again, conveying to the client, this is what you're purchasing. This is the value that you're purchasing with this content that you have given us for translation and localization. All right, got it. Now, could you let us know if you'd like to credit the people who have produced your work? Bringing that just explicitly out there, should we give credit? Should we have the translator get credit for their work? Should we have the LSC get credit? Should there be some sort of an about page on the website that talks about who is the team that provided this? And you could even incorporate here some sort of discussion about how quality increases when people have their name on the product that they're producing in order to sort of justify having credit be given. All right, so now we'd need to perhaps at the end confirm some really important legal parameters, such as the jurisdiction, in case any disputes arise. This is a clause from the American Translators Association job model contract where they require that mediation be performed rather than having something go to a lawsuit, for instance. So these would just be risk management type things that are being incorporated where the person is going through. And in fact, I wouldn't make it one of those really long terms and conditions where you're just agreeing at the end. I would make them agree to each and every set of sentences one by one so I can be sure this person has seen these 3 sentences, they have to press agree. They've seen this set of warranties, they have to press agree. They've seen this liability clause, and they have to press agree. All right, so woohoo, you're all finished. So in the background, there would be, some sort of a calculation that's happening that's taking all of those parameters that have been selected and generating, based on that, a quote. There could be a whole series of line items under each one of these, but I would essentially break it down by here's what you're going to pay for the language work. Here's what you're going to pay for the design work. Maybe I would even compile that further and just say, here's what you're going to pay for our services. And then you would have, your expected delivery in whatever days, weeks, months that the person is expecting. All right, so then it would be essentially then asking them, you're all completed, should we get started? And they press yes. The system gets started, they press no, it doesn't. You'll notice that within this specification wizard, I didn't mention anything about machine translation. The clients don't need to know that we're performing machine translation. They don't need to know that we're connecting translation memories. This is the stuff that LSCs care about, not the stuff that the clients care about. So you make the decision as the LSC, I'm going to apply MT because that's what we do in our industry. We apply the MT to the new words if we want to, not necessarily. And yeah, so that's what I got for that.